I could tell you about five new things I've launched since April. I could talk to you about pivots, diversification, building multiple income streams, but that's not what happened. What happened is I chose to go deeper into one lane. And I want to talk to you about why that's actually lonely, why sometimes people may not celebrate it, and why it's the only path to real authority. Welcome into the confessional at Enterprise Confessional. I'm so excited to be back here with y'all. It has been a couple of months since I spoke to y'all. So I was like, hold up, I got to stop what I'm doing and tell them what's really going on in these business streets, what's going on in the branding streets, and just tell y'all all the new juicy stuff that has been happening, not just from myself, but also from the clients that I'm working with. This year alone, I know for a fact I have turned down opportunities. And I know before you gasp and be like, what? You're crazy. You're leaving money on the table. Y'all, it is always a method to the madness. This is why I swear by this. Opportunities that are out of alignment in the season that you're in can totally throw off your focus, especially when you have started out your year with a specific strategy. This year was the year of me focusing on GovCon, abbreviated, it's government contracting. And so I was just like, okay, I was super excited for 2026 to get to here because I was just like, I want to do brand consulting at a larger level. I wanted to serve, different states, cities, and all the things. And there were certain niches that I specifically said no to because I knew it was going to stretch my focus and my capacity beyond what was realistic for my current season. And this is a thing that nobody really talks about. I feel like if they do talk about it, it's more quiet. It's behind the scenes. So I'm saying this publicly. Sometimes saying no is going to help speed up what result you actually want to get. Let me say that again. Sometimes saying no is going to help speed up said result that you want to make in that particular year. Easy growth looks like, okay, I could serve this niche over here. I could serve coaches. I could serve creators. I could serve agencies. I can serve these pockets of people. And it gets so overwhelming to where your focus has literally dwindled and you don't realize it until it's too late. The thing that I've learned is that actual growth looks like I'm getting so deep in this one lane that I'm literally irreplaceable in it. And this is exactly what I'm referring to when I talk about the importance of channeling your focus and building a brand around said message. I always refer back to the metaphor when you are in the gym and you're working out, it is a slow build, it is a gradual build to add on more weight. When you strain a muscle too soon, it actually does not get stronger, it gets injured. And so I take this same metaphor quite literally inside of building a brand. In your brand, straining a muscle looks like watering down your focus. Once we've watered down your focus, you're not meeting your revenue goals. You're all over the place with your marketing. Your branding is shot every which way. It ends up not being good at all. I've noticed a lot of times as humans, you get bored with repeating things. You get bored with doing the same thing over and over and over again, 100 different ways. But the thing is, while you're building this muscle, what you're building is something called vertical authority. And what it actually requires is patience. Just because you don't see anything happening on the surface does not mean that nothing is happening. And this is a conversation that I've had so many times. I know for a fact I've said this over 1,000 times over the years because it's literally something that continues to come up because we live in a microwave society, because we live in a world where everybody wants everything overnight. You literally just want to hope something works out and you blow up overnight, you got $1 million. Like, unfortunately, that is not the world that we live in. It takes time to build a brand. It takes time to be known for a specific message. So, what does it look like to continuously change your message, change your channel of focus every other month because you feel like nothing is happening? And another metaphor that I like to talk about when it comes to this is when a plant or a tree is taking root, it literally grows down and then up. So you don't see anything happening, but it doesn't mean that nothing isn't happening, because it absolutely is. The thing that you planted is taking root. I feel like a lot of times too, people are so obsessed with comparing themselves. And it's really unfortunate because the thing is, having consulted so many people, I mean, it has been a true journey of mine to be able to say that I have spoken with and coached and talked to so many different people. When you're comparing yourself, you really are making yourself robbed of true joy, because you have no idea what is really going on the back end of some of the businesses that you're comparing yourself to. And we also don't know, again, if their marketing is actually working. So here you are, obsessed with looking at how somebody else's brand looks. They paid thousands of dollars for photo shoots, etc., but you don't know on the back end that those photo shoots are actually not generating actual income, is actually not moving the needle, because they don't have a marketing strategist or brand strategist, whatever. So, again, the best way that I have been teaching people to build their capacity when it comes to having more patience is you really have to curate your feed in a way that is very intentional. That's something that I do. And as someone who has to use social media every single day, I'm very intentional with who I follow. I'm very quick with the block button and hitting not interested. And I know sometimes people might think that's a little bit dramatic, but as for me and my mental health, I don't play about my focus. And so, whatever it is that I need to do, I'm going to do that, especially if something is taking away my focus from my goals. The next thing that I wanted to talk about that vertical authority actually requires is being specific. Making sure that you are specifically talking to a particular client. You don't want to serve a broad audience, because it's going to be really, really hard for you to channel your focus and have a streamlined marketing system. So, for example, not serving quote unquote entrepreneurs who need brands. That is way too broad. And that example could be used for somebody else as a strategist that might be listening to this. A couple of other people that I deal with as well, they're in the wellness industry. So I've had to get on a couple of clients as well, talking about, well, I just want to serve everyone. I want to heal everyone. While that's amazing, I love that for you. Realistically speaking, we need to have a specific client profile so that we could build out what type of brand would attract that type of person. The next thing is deepening your own work. And this one really hit home for me this year personally, and on a client serving level. When you have too many things going on, it is quite literally impossible to prioritize quality, because you are stretched so thin across so many different offers that it is extremely hard and unrealistic to expect to have a marketing system going out 24 hours a day for you, because you have so many things going on. In my personal example, I developed a framework and a method, and this is a one method, one framework that I have been taking my clients on for years, and I just hadn't had a name for it yet. However, every single year that method has gotten deeper, more people are getting more results. And I actually just sent out a email campaign today talking about how this one method has brought in as a collective over $14,000 in sales. This is literally proving my point, because I have narrowed down the focus, put this framework, deployed it out amongst others. I'm seeing the results, and I'm seeing that it is literally affirming what I already knew to be true. All in all, the lesson here is you can have one offer and go deeper, not wider. And it will almost always outweigh going too wide too early. And of course, I'm going to address the real loneliness of committing to saying, okay, I'm only going to focus on this one offer, this one channel, and this one audience. It is lonely as hell, y'all. I'm not going to lie. It definitely takes some discipline. And again, going back to the muscle metaphor, little by little, practicing this. So when you commit to vertical authority, everyone wants to give you advice about horizontal expansion, unfortunately. I have definitely had clients who have had multiple coaches, and so their conversations might look a lot different from mine because, again, everybody may not go by a framework, and people have a right to do that. However, what I've noticed is my clients are able to grasp onto my teaching because I'm taking them down a particular path, so that they can replicate it in their own way. There's a real fear that I have literally noticed in clients when I run this by them. They're like, what if I'm limiting myself? What if this is not enough? These are real thoughts in real time that I've had conversations with. I've literally had to refer people out, to go see either a life coach or a therapist, because there's a certain point where we can't move forward if you continue to be stuck on this part. You have to realize that your body of work that you're creating will pay you for lifetimes if you allow it, because this is the beauty of marketing. There's so many different ways to market yourself. That's where you get creative and you have fun and you do all the things. But when we're talking about your actual body of work, the thing that you're trying to sell, whether it be a service or a product, um, we really have to have confidence in that delivery that we're able to get our customer or our client. So the real truth here for you is to understand that vertical authority is expansion. It's not visible in a way that horizontal expansion is, but it definitely is. But it takes time. You can build credibility deeper staying in one lane than chasing five. So here's how your authority is actually going to build now that you've listened to this. It is a muscle. You do not wake up strong. You train over time, over and over to get to this particular point. Consistency is not boring, and you really need to sit with yourself about that, because this is, again, another issue and a pain point that I constantly see. It is not boring. It is how people know that you're serious. You know, Unfortunately, a lot of people are repelling people from their business because they're so all over the place, and it gives unstable vibes, and it gives the vibe that you are not really serious at what it is that you do, because you clearly are not confident. I mean, you can't be, because you wouldn't be changing and switching gears every other freaking month. And then, a lot of you guys are ghosting your audience. So it's like you're ghosting, and then we don't see you for a month or 2 weeks or whatever the cadence is. And then we see you all of a sudden popping up when you say you need money, because you're offering a discount. So let's look at the narrative that we are showing people. Let's look at the narrative that's being painted because of our lack of inconsistency. So this is something that I really live by. Definitely take heed to it. Refinement looks like repetition from the outside, and from the inside is evolution. Each client that you work with deepens your framework, and it does not broaden it. Your positioning gets sharper, not wider, and your ideal client actually becomes easier to attract because you're unmistakable in that lane. So, for the person that's listening to this who is intrigued to start building vertically instead of horizontally, if you're saying no to things that don't fit, this is your validation. If you're refining the same offer over and over, you're building authority. I encourage you to keep going. I want you to join the people who understand that mastery is depth, it is not horizontal. I want you to know that I didn't get here overnight. I've gotten here by choosing one thing and going so deep that people have stopped asking me to do other things. Now they just ask, can you go deeper with me? Do you have a yearly retainer? What is it that you have that you could offer me so that we can stay together? Because I get it. I get you. These are the things that you want people to say to you. I encourage you in this season to go deep and not wide, because what it is that you do is brilliant enough to serve you for an entire lifetime. See you on the next episode.